she was a professor at Cal State Fullerton back when they actually taught people politics and gave people let them make up their own mind, right? Now they just teach you what they want you to learn, not what they actually did. I don't know, I think when I went to school, college was for, hey, open your mind, take both sides in and make your decision. Now it's more like, you gotta believe what we believe. But she was a long-time Republican activist. She's the one I call every year to ask her for the list because everyone asks me what these propositions mean. And she's the one who has the knowledge and understands them really well and does all the research. Because, as you know, sometimes when you vote yes, it means no, and when you vote no, it means yes, the way they word these. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Dr. Barbara Stone.
We used to use watches. Now I keep track of the time. It is a pleasure to be here. By the way, I've noticed the acoustics are not great, so if you folks can't hear me, just do something. Make faces, put your hand up, and I'll be happy to try to present one. Wonderful to be here because the only way parties grow is through candidates who mean it, work it, and bring like-minded people around. Then who do what Ralph suggested, which is beat on everybody you know agrees with you, but they go, oh, there's no point in voting. Yes, there's a point in voting. And harass them until they vote. There's only one thing wrong in this room. This gentleman over here.
Larry?
UCLA. I have 2 grandsons at SC.
Right on.
And actually, my great-grandmother went to SC, so you figure that out.
That's why you mortgaged your house again.
Yeah, I got that right. But anyhow, candidates are what can grow party, but if you all actually want to affect votes in a very real way, have some idea what the propositions are about. Because I can tell you as a fact that actually most people want to be good citizens, but they do not want to put in the time to learn enough to be good citizens in terms of voting for propositions. So what they will do is find somebody they think has done the work, somebody they respect, and just go, okay, tell me how to vote. And by the way, I hate to say this, they mean that, tell me how to vote. They don't mean explain them to me. They mean tell me how to vote. And actually, you could do worse than have a little card that goes, yeah, actually, we're Republicans. No, 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 no. And then, well, by the way, there is a difference between liberals and conservatives, and you tend as parties to be one or the other. A liberal would go, that's a great idea, let's try it. A Republican would go, I'm not quite sure what this is all about. We've lived without it a long time, so nah, maybe not. There is a difference. And then one of these we're going to get to on that. So anyhow, what I'm going to do, if it's all right, is give you, I'm sorry, I'm a talkative professor. Former students can tell you that. And so what my version of a brief description of each, and I'm trying to leave time because I know we have to get out of here to ask for details. And the ones where you may be interested in details are the 2 gambling ones, where those people have spent obscene amounts of money. You could use them for a congressional campaign.
I would love that.
Yes. And anyhow, I do know a bit about that, although I admit I only gamble on horses and sure things.
Yeah, right.
Then you would have betted on UCLA.
No, I wouldn't bet on UCLA. But SC, with all Lincoln Riley and all that money, it better be careful. UCLA is looking awfully good. But the coach will manage to blow it. Okay. Going down. It's a pity nobody is doing any advertising on Proposition 1 because it is significant. What it is an amendment to the state constitution that forbids interference with a woman's right to have an abortion and to contraceptives. The contraceptive stuff is irrelevant. Federal law already covers that. The key is it puts in the Constitution a provision that you may not prohibit an abortion. What's important is that there is no time limit on that. Current law in California is based on a right to privacy. Our state Supreme Court discovered in the Constitution, which is the underlying justification for abortion. So you have the right to privacy in the Constitution, and then you have state law. And state law permits abortion up until a doctor says the fetus is viable. They've used 24 weeks as that number. You will notice the law says 24 weeks. The constitutional amendment just says you can't do it. I have no doubt in my mind, and discussions in the state legislature indicate, as far as I can tell, that I am correct. This is intended to open the door so the first court case on late-term abortion finds, of course, there was a California right to late-term abortion. And people should know that's what they're voting for. And if that's what they want, fine, but they should know, and nobody's going to tell them. That this is, you have a 7, 8, 9 month fetus, and the mom goes, oh, I didn't know I was pregnant, which, by the way, happens. And they abort it. You can't stop them. And I assume you will all have opinions on that. If you want mine, I can give it, but you get the general idea. All right. That's right. We have 26 and 27. I've never seen so many people spend so much money on something, beginning actually before the primaries on the one case. We should tell you how much money is at stake here. What you have to do when you go to vote on this is first ask yourself, do you want sports betting in California? By the way, federal law for a long time said the states, other than Nevada, maybe there were some others, couldn't have sports betting. You could have betting, but not sports betting, like on SCUCLA. And I think it was 2018, the Supreme Court went, nah, that's overstepping, and the states may have it if they choose. Something like 30 states have so chosen. Sports betting is big business. So the questions that you come up with are, one, do you want it? And two, well, by the way, the answer is no, you don't want it, you simply vote no on both and don't think about it too much. Two, if you do want it, how do you want it to be available? Prop 26 legalizes sports betting in person only at tribal gaming clubs and at racetracks. Now, I don't mean county fairs. It's the big tracks. It's Santa Anita, Del Mar, Los Alamitos, and whatever the fourth one is. But so under 26, sports betting would be legal, but only in person at tribal casinos and on racetracks. Just for fun, if you look, because it may matter if these both pass, it also gives the tribes, it does two things. Gives the tribes the right to offer, they call it dice games, they mean craps, yeah. All right? And roulette. Yeah, and roulette, which to them are a big deal. And the other thing, there's something in there that makes it much easier to go after the card clubs, which is why if you notice the no on 16 ads are all paid for by the card clubs.
No on 26.
Yeah, so that's where that is. You need to decide if you want to vote for that. Prop 27 is for online gambling on sports, all right? I.e., I can just pick up my handy. By the way, this is how most people at racetracks vote these days. I have a friend that goes all the time. She sits down in the box and bets, even though she could go in. It's how people do it. That's why they're all getting fat, but that's neither here nor there. It is online gaming. If you notice, FanDuel and what's the DraftKings are the two big national companies behind this. They have to get together with a recognized tribe. That's why there are 4 tribes who are in favor of this. And they can offer it anytime, any place. It's online. By the way, they all say they're going to keep kids from betting like this. Oh, give me a break. You know, what world do you live in? And they all say, God, people make me angry. Have you noticed the ads? This is going to solve homelessness. I mean, seriously, boys and girls. But that's in there on purpose so they can run the ads that this money is going homeless. By the way, just an aside comment, the problem with homelessness is not lack of money. It's lack of political will and lack of an appropriate
Billions of dollars are already there.
And you know partly why they're doing it, they're building whatever because they can do that. It would take hard work to solve the rest of it.
Exactly.
Plus you'd have to turn the sheriff loose on them to go catch them. All right. Anyway.
Rock and roll.
So, once again with 2627, do you want sports betting? If you want sports betting, do you want it in person or do you want it online? That's actually when it comes right down to it, what it's about. There's a kicker in here that people believe if they both pass, the one with the higher vote will
Supersede.
yeah, and I must admit that may be true. In my mind, I gave up playing those games years ago because it always works out some way you don't think it's going to work out. Okay, Prop 28. It provides for more funding from the general fund for art and music education for K through 14. I know somebody who actually knows what she's talking about on this and said even if you want that, for what it's worth, timing was terrible. This budget just threw money at art and music education that is out there. This money, and in case you want to know where it comes from, this money, 80% of it has to go to hiring teachers. The money the state just threw at it, a lot of it can go to like buying instruments and things like that. If you want to get into this, I can get into it. It's just the group of, well, never mind. 80% of the money would be going to hire more art and music teachers in large districts. That's approximately correct.
That's approximately.
Well, it's only large districts that the 80% applies to, but since that's most of it. And see, are any of you teachers for UTLA? Okay. I have such a prejudice against those people.
Clear the room.
Yeah, they're everything they want. Anyhow.
Now, where's the trade-off? Where's the money? Like, they're pulling it from STEM classes, they're pulling it from other investments. Where are they pulling the
Good
money
question.
from?
The answer is additional funds from the general fund.
Oh, geez.
So it's a peanut butter spread from everything else that we're supposed to be spending money on. It's just going to pull from there and be one more thing that we can't make a decision on with our representatives further on in the budget.
Yeah, because it's Constitution, you can't change it.
Correct. You can't change it.
That's my understanding, my dears. All right. Yeah. And that's a good question because some of these others, there's an additional revenue source. Well, in fact, there really is. But yeah, this one, as far as I know, just straight up general.
Martha, could you mention that an initiative is a constitutional amendment and what Wes was talking about is so significant because the legislature, even if they got their act together, couldn't change it.
Got it. Could you hear, Ralph, because it's important, this is a constitutional amendment, which means the legislature can't change it. We, the people, would have to. Well, they could put it on the ballot, but anyway. They have to in part because school funding's in there, the formula, and so they have to make that work.
Well, one other question.
Of course, no problem.
So, what they could do is change the definition of what is arts and music, correct? Or is that defined? Because that's also a rabbit hole that you could go down as well.
As far as I know, no, they don't deal with that. They mean pretty much what's out there. And this is pretty well defined in state law because they have requirements right now that in elementary school you must offer some of this. In middle school you must offer it as an option, and you can't get out of high school without taking one of these classes. My sons took photography, okay? Others took ceramics. So there are requirements, so I think they've pretty well defined it.
All right.
Don't go to the bank on that one. Alrighty. SEIU is upset with the dialysis clinics.
Again.
That's exactly the appropriate term. They aren't unionized. They won't unionize. So what they do every 2 years, this is the third time in a row, third election, they come in with some initiative that is going to cost the dialysis clinics a whole lot of money. And basically what they're suggesting is they're going to hit you every 2 years until you roll over and unionize. That's what this is about. So this particular one is having to have a licensed healthcare professional on site every time anybody is being treated. That is very expensive. Do any of you get dialysis treatments or have a friend that does? Yeah, it happens, you know. And when for once, I believe the ads are correct. When the ad is run saying my dialysis clinic may close, not all these clinics are making money now. But most of them are part of large companies. Well, DaVita has something like, I'm forgetting, 40% of the clinics. In my area, that's the only group that has them. And they will keep some clinics going that aren't making money but are part of a larger whole and connected to a network. We will assume they would close those clinics if they just weren't making money and they had to put the money here. Where would you go? The answer is probably hospitals, which is extraordinarily expensive if there's room. So good luck. This is this one. Does anyone in the room think I'm in favor of this? If I told you SEIU makes me almost excited as UTLA.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. That's terrible, but.
Well, I got a note, I don't know, Barbara, if you were able to validate it. I could not validate that their money and the financial disclosures, most of it's covered in the hospital associations. We fund most of this, and the dialysis groups are the two major funding. But it's camouflaged. I couldn't find it.
Ralph's asking about the funding of this and stories about who's doing it. I know that the clinics are funding those ads against it. I mean, it's right up front and it's really, I've heard nothing about hospitals. To be honest, I can't imagine why hospitals would be in favor of it because they don't have the room to do this. They don't have the staffing to do what they're supposed to be doing now. No, I mean, man, the pandemic made it extraordinary, plus government regulations have made it extraordinarily difficult. So I don't think so, Ralph, but I don't know. Proposition 30 pains me in two ways. Number one, because it makes me agree with Gavin Newsom on something.
What? No.
Although his reasoning and mine are different, I will admit. And secondarily, because you talk about trying to totally fool the public. You have it on that piece of paper. I wrote it on this piece of paper. The legal, what your people are going to see on the ballot as the title for this initiative says it provides funding for programs to reduce air pollution and prevent wildfires. Okay, and this is going to be funded by a 1.75 increase on the top level of the state income tax for anyone making $2 million or more a year.
He still lives in California.
Yes, there. Sandy just said it, who still lives in California, and that number, I should presume, would go down again. Right now, we have by far the highest state income tax in the country. I think the next highest is 11%. I think that's New York, and that's just who we want to be like. But this would make this 13-point-something%. And it's terrible fiscal policy because we have over the years come to depend on those people. When I started teaching in the dark ages, in my California state and local class, I used to teach, because it was true, that approximately equal amounts of sales tax and income tax went to funding most of the government. That is no longer true. It's all the income tax. Not all of it, but you know, the huge thing. And that's why our income in the state, it goes up, it goes down, depending on how their income goes. And when they leave, oh well, it's somewhere else. My son happens to be CEO of the City of Hope, and he said it's just becoming impossible to recruit people to come out here.
It's too expensive.
And that's, you know. So, it's terrible fiscal policy. I don't have to go beyond that. Beyond that, give me a break. We are throwing money at this electric everything, because that's what this is. That money has to go to subsidies for electric vehicles, subsidies for electric charging stations, you know, like the ones that are underwater in Florida. Actually, what I love more is this came down the pike right now. Everybody has to buy an electric vehicle, and oh dear, the grid's not doing so well, so don't plug your car in tonight.
Exactly.
Oh well, what world do we live in?
Talk about control.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. Anyway, oh, and they threw in some money for firefighters, and if you notice, that's the only ad you're seeing, is the one for the firefighters. That was, it's sort of like the homeless with the gambling. What this is, the state told Lyft and Uber that they have to go electric, I think, by 2030. If their people have to buy electric cars, they're going to have problems getting people. So Lyft has spent something like, last numbers I saw, 30 million on this. They qualified it. They're spending on the ads because they figure that this will be so much more money like this, and I'm sure they have something in there, I just haven't found it, that says Lyft drivers are going to get this. Anyway, this is us supporting Lyft drivers, even though there's already lots of money for this. Gavin Newsom has been on television about this is phony, this is one greedy company. Believe it or not, for once he's right. Now, somebody, let me make sure I'm not, okay. Somebody tell me why Gavin Newsom is against this. Gavin Newsom loves money for electric everything. Why is Gavin Newsom against this?
He doesn't have the control.
President. He doesn't want to look too crazy.
Yeah, you're right on. Because they wrote, actually, he's this way because the teachers' unions are against it. And the reason the teachers' unions are against it is it's specifically written that these dollars go to this specific cause and do not go into the general fund and do not go into the money that the formula allocating the K through 14 comes from. That's what that's all about. The bottom line is they don't get it.
Yep.
And so I'm against it. I love it. That's called principle, you guys. By the way, anyone who can't enjoy their politics should just go find something else. Although someone I know, because I am being married to an engineer, so I periodically go, yeah, thank you. That's engineer humor. Well, then maybe this is all political humor, but since that's what we're interested in, we're happy. Oh, okay. And Prop 31. You guys are going to have to decide what you want to do with this. It's fairly easy. It's a referendum. A referendum means that the legislature passed and the governor signed a law that that the people, meaning people with money, did not want. They got together in 90 days, the signature to put this on the ballot. So what we're actually doing is voting on the law the legislature passed. This is one of those that we let ourselves get confused by going yes is no and no is yes. If you just remember that what it is us voting yes or no on the law the legislature passed. It's actually very clear. All right, you do know we've had, for better or worse reasons, a major war on tobacco in this state, as well as nationally. Cigarettes, pretty much, if any of you still smoke, I'm glad you have that much money. The alternative has been vaping, which is, what are they, the electronic somethings?
Yeah.
And surveys show that kids use that much more than smoking cigarettes. They tend not to smoke cigarettes. And the vaping things, as I understand it, it's not tobacco, it's nicotine, which is a constituent of tobacco. And what they do is make it into an aerosol and then warm it, and the nicotine, and the kids like it. By the way, that's quite addicting, I gather. And kids really like it with flavors. The move across the country is to prohibit flavors. Right now, the federal government says in tobacco smoke, so when you're smoking cigarettes, that menthol is the only taste that can be added. All right? They have not yet extended that to the vaping. California stepped in and went no flavors on the vaping. Actually, they can't say that, but what they said was that these devices may not be sold over the counter or in a vending machine if they have any flavoring. The idea being you keep kids from getting them. The industry qualified this referendum, and it's up to you what you want to do. My problem here, I never smoked. I grew up in a household that did not smoke. That's probably the biggest thing. And smoking makes me go, I remember flying on airplanes when they let the people in the back smoke. Really? One of your long flights you took me on, he likes to travel, I'd stay home. My grandfather once said he used to lie down when the urge to travel overtook him, and Grandpa and I are right on the same page. But the point out of all of this, I remember hiding under a blanket to try to get away from the smoke. So I'm no lover of smoke, darlings. I also am a grumpy old lady. And the do-gooders in the legislature who have made marijuana legal in a way that has made it so much worse. You couldn't do worse if you wanted. Not counting the research that says up until the brain is fully developed, that stuff affects it in a negative way, IQ drops. And sorry men, you're slower than we are. And your brain doesn't fully develop till by about 26. So anybody who did that, I don't want to hear how they're saving the world from flavored vaping. So I am casting a grumpy old lady vote no. Does that make some sense? But there are people who may think it's okay, and I'm not going to say you're evil or belong with the bad kids.